Let's start with this, Sam Armstrong. Have you thought about signing the petition? I'm not a big petition signer personally.
Yeah, well, the truth is these petitions are going to make not a jot of difference. Keir Starmer was, whether we like it or not, legitimately elected in this country. But what I think it does reflect is a sense of anger, a sense of you told us you were different. You said that this was going to be a different type of Labour government, that you weren't quite as woke, that you were concentrated on our issues, that you wouldn't raise our taxes. And then you've got into office, and what have you done? Aha, surprise, raised everybody's taxes. And that, I think, has contributed in just one after another after another to a widespread feeling that, hang on, this wasn't right, this wasn't fair. And if there's one thing I think Brits dislike, it's any sense of unfair play.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we were discussing ad nauseum during the election campaign how there was no doubt at all that we were going to see tax rises, not just under Labour but under the Tories too. When Labour said they weren't going to raise the rates of income tax, national insurance and VAT, and people were going, oh really? When on working people. Well, employers are also working people. A lot of them work darn hard, actually. I don't know any employers who don't work darn hard. It's how they became employers. They pushed it the extra mile. People don't just get... I know some people inherit it. Most people who do well in life have actually worked their socks off and to get that far. But they, the employers' national insurance has gone up. But of course, as we know, even the Treasury and the Office of Budget Responsibility have said that will impact on people, on jobs, because that money's going to have to be found from somewhere. But we've also got, retailers. They're saying that will cost jobs, that it's going to push up prices. Hospitality is saying that. We've got the CBI this morning. They're saying in a poll of their members, and they are the big businesses, majority of them will hire fewer people, and just under 50% will probably see some job losses as a result. The cost of employing people has been huge. You've got winter fuel allowance for most pensioners being removed. That has been a disaster for this government. Farmers' tax, again, already a disaster. I think likely to be more of a disaster in the months to come. They seem to be going around upsetting everybody. Is a petition like this, is that a way of holding people to account?
I don't think so, if I'm honest. What I think it probably is an expression of helplessness from now almost 2 million people, that there is almost nothing that they can do, right? We've got this Starmer government in. People, I think, knew it was going to be bad, but I think the phrase you hear again and again and again is, I knew it was going to be bad, but I didn't expect it to be this bad. Or this quickly. And that is what people are saying. And look, for now, for the next 4 years, there's only 2 ways that you're going to get a general election. Well, 4.5 now, I suppose. The next 2 years, the next 4.5 years, the only 2 ways you can see a general election is if Keir Starmer decides to call one, or if something dramatic happens and the Labour Party itself decides to get rid of him. I don't think either of those.
Even if they got rid of him, there would be no requirement for a general election. I mean, look, my thing is, I didn't, I don't support this government. I said I thought they'd be rubbish. I thought the last government deserved to lose. So we knew what the alternative was. They have a big mandate now, not necessarily in percentage of votes, but I don't question elections that have been fairly held when people have their say. If people don't vote and then they get the government they don't want, or they vote for another party and get the government they don't want, that's still a legitimate election. They are legitimately in power, and they had a manifesto. That's what they said they're going to do. So they're entitled to push those policies forward. But there is an argument, is it, holding to account a government that says, oh, we've suddenly found there's no money. Now, I think no doubt at all the Tories had rinky-dinked some numbers and they weren't giving all the full figures. Of course, there were things they were committed to. And we know everyone in opposition can call for, oh, we need to give compensation to people from the post office. Oh, we need to give compensation to people, who from the infected blood scanner. Oh, and we'll all agree with it. And voters will go, it's outrageous these people haven't had their compensation. And when you add it up between all the people who are affected, you are looking at many tens of billions of pounds. And then people go, but I don't want my taxes to go up to pay for it. Well, who did you think was going to pay for it? That, again, the magic money tree? So we have to also accept that we can't demand this is spent, I want more money on this, I want more money on that, and then go, oh, but I expected him over the... I expected Dyson to pay for everything. I expected Lord Sugar's taxes to pay for everything. The countries that have really good public services, that work really, really well, unless you're looking at the tiny little place like Singapore, which, by the way, is not democracy in any meaningful sense as well, most of those countries have much higher basic taxes than we do. The trouble is, I wouldn't trust that if we did have higher taxes, that money would be spent well. Do I think the public services would get better in that circumstance? No.
Well, they've got one of two things. Either they have higher taxes or, frankly, they have higher economic wealth and growth than we have had for far too long. Look, we are now poorer than the poorest state in America, in this country. Mississippi in America is a joke. It is a joke place. People talk about it as being a swamp. You know, people talk about how poor the economy is there. We are significantly poorer than Mississippi
But it's on average, isn't it?
Well, it's on average by capita. Per capita, we are poorer. And that is the reality of it. Now, you add that to the fact that this Labour government has made choices, deliberate choices, right? It gave 10 billion quid to union pay rises. It's spending 10 billion quid on Ed Miliband's fantasy energy project.
22 billion going abroad.
22 billion going abroad, £1 billion on pension payments for retired miners. Now, look, I'm not saying any of those are wrong, right? But those are choices that have been made. They were deliberate choices that were made. And as a result, they have chosen who their people are, them, and who their people are not. Farmers, pensioners, people who get bused to work.
Yeah, the thing I find fascinating, really, is you know, that Labour think they've got this coalition of, you know, at the end of the day, I mean, they only got in because people didn't vote Tory. They didn't vote Labour. They didn't improve their vote. More people voted for Jeremy Corbyn than voted for Keir Starmer as Prime Minister. Keir Starmer was the sensible one. And the thing I don't understand is that they think they're just going to sort of do so well because they're just going to keep people in the public sector happy. The public sector is only 20% of people who work in this country. And, you know, so what they're going to do, have a coalition of people on benefits and people in the public sector. I mean, that is not a recipe for a great future for this country. I want to hear from you. Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. Do you agree with the petition calling for a general election? It's hit, or pretty much, it's just 39,000 now is going so fast to offer at the 2 million signatures. You need 100,000 to have a debate in Parliament. Do you agree? Do you not agree? Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. Let's talk also about Storm Bert. Massive downpours over the weekend. Some parts of the country saw basically a month's rainfall in a day or two. I always have a lot of sympathy for people. You see, like, these swathes of, you know, the rivers, you know, the streets that have turned into rivers. Having had my home flooded twice, got a flat, and part of it's in the basement. I mean, don't buy a basement flat. Top tip, everyone in life. And now we fingers crossed, find something wooden. We are watertight, I think. Touch my head. But it is the most sort of soul-destroying thing. And at least we weren't dealing with, you know, sewage. And basically, you know, your river overflows, you've got raw sewage in your home. It is absolutely so grim, and the damage is devastating. And this is affecting so many homes.
Yes, not least in the countryside where I spent the weekend, where the wind in particular has a huge impact. This is the time of year where there's still some leaves on the trees. Any dead wood is going to come down on power lines, telephone lines, and millions of people will be waking up this morning cut off from basic services and having to put things together. And I spent the weekend actually with some rural people that were feeling like it was pretty tough going into the weekend as it was with the recent changes by the Labour government, and indeed how tough it is for farming. All of this is added on top. And, you know, it's just a reminder that in our very modern world, actually, no, we are still creatures of the planet and nature and weather events.
I mean, at some point, someone has to shout global warming at this during this conversation. I believe that is the law.
Well, look, never forget, of course, look, it is a tragedy, of course, that 4 people died last night.
But they now think 5.
There was a time when many, many, many more people died in events like this.
Hundreds and hundreds routinely.
Year. And never forget that climate deaths are down around the world by over 90% in the last
99% in 100 years. It is an extraordinary achievement. And again, we've been able to do that with technology, largely using fossil fuels. That is the reality. Even in poorer, you know, really, really poor underdeveloped countries, that is the case. But also we know that in a lot of cases, when there are these deluges and when there are problems, we saw with the flooding in Germany last year, that, you know, actually often, again, it's a failure to dredge, it's a failure to, you know, removing dams. There are eco-policies we see with the fires, the wildfires that happen, you know, in Greece and in Italy and places like that. And then so much of it is because they actually, you know, they just changed the way they manage land, same as in California as well. And the eco things, you know what, they had ways of managing these things for many, many centuries, and then they just scupper them for eco reasons. And funnily enough, nature has a habit of just doing whatever she damn well pleases. And man's entire existence has been a battle against nature, and fossil fuels have been an amazing way of helping us to defeat Mother Nature in lots of times. But yeah, as you know, she still has a way of having her way. Let's talk about whether Liz Kendall's going to get her way. Work and Pensions Secretary. She was out and about doing the Sunday round yesterday. Very unimpressively, I think most people who were forced to watch I am for my job. My husband always loves the Sunday morning TV round. But she's going to announce this big crackdown on worklessness tomorrow. It's a big paper, Getting Britain Working. We've heard it a million times before. The only person who's actually made any headway on this has been Ian Duncan-Smith, when he actually was Work and Pensions Secretary, much derided, brought in universal credit, and really tried to make a dent in the number of workless households. And he absolutely did. He really did achieve what he set out to do, and he did it on a very moral mission about the importance of, people standing on their own 2 feet, self-respect, the morality of work. It should be shameful to not work if you are able to work, and most people who are out of work are able to work. We have a higher rate of worklessness since the pandemic than any other G7 country. No other G7 country, by the way, has seen, they had lockdowns too, but they haven't seen the workless rate go up. There are millions of people, young, perfectly capable people, who are simply not working. Now, she would not be drawn exactly what sanctions were going to be. The carrot and the stick. People are going to be offered training, work. If they don't take it, they will, quote, face sanctions. And then a lot of the headlines are saying they'll lose their benefits. That's not what she said. I don't believe for a moment a Labour cabinet minister is going to endorse that. They should. Yep. It should be really, really simple. There are lots of people who say they want to work. I've met lots of young people in my time who say they want to work. What they mean is, I want to do my dream job for a dream salary. Except they're not qualified for that. Except they're not really qualified for very much. They need to go and do some really entry-level jobs, which people like, me, you, I'm guessing most of my audience all did, and had no shame in it, totally proud to be at work and do those jobs, whether it's chopping onions, stacking newspapers, whatever it is. There's no shame in any legal work like that. But they don't want to take it because they think they're too good for it. The message seems to be very, very, very clear. You don't work, you don't get any money. Nothing, de nada, no housing benefit, nothing. I don't care if you're on the streets. Go and get a job.
Yeah, around this time of year growing up, it was packing turkeys for
the glamour.
The glamour. It was very
I want to hear from you. What the jobs you did to get started? I'd love to hear from you. Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. The most gruesome the better.
Yeah, I loved packing turkeys. It was there. I was with my friends.
Were they
a good
frozen?
Time. No, they were very high quality turkeys actually,
really?
but it didn't feel like it when you were in a cold freezer room, a fridge room that you were having to do it for sort of 8 hours at a time.
I mean this in the nicest way, Sam, and I hope my audience will understand. That sounds like quite manly work for you.
Well, I like to think I have ideas.
You all knew what I meant.
But look, on the subject of welfare, it is a huge problem. You cannot begin to think about cutting taxes in this country, about improving other public services, until you deal with this fact that we have over 1 million more people out of work than we did before the pandemic. The single biggest factor in this, is those long-term out of work citing the illness or condition that they have as mental health conditions. Now,
stress, anxiety.
I don't wish to diminish that in any way, but there is a concern, there is a obvious question as to why 1 million more people are now saying they were sick than were doing 3 years ago. I have to say I'm deeply sceptical as to whether all of those people are so ill that they couldn't be at work. And, go further, I suspect a good many of them would probably be healthier, happier, in much better life condition if they were back in work with the discipline, the routine that comes with it.
Absolutely.
Now, will Liz Kendall do anything about those people? I very, very, very much doubt it. The quickest way to change this is to change the eligibility criteria for what constitutes long-term out of work, and that means taking the power out of GPs' hands, who will always sign the note quite quickly, in my experience.
My mum didn't. She was a GP, so people would walk in and go, "Oh, it's you. You're not going to sign it." And she'd go, "No."
But we know
doing you a favour.
People go GP shopping. People pressure GPs, and the overwhelming incentive for GPs is just to get it done quickly. So you have to change that, and you have to say no. mild, moderate depression, I'm very sorry, but that is not a condition that qualifies you to not work.
Absolutely.
Same with anxiety, same with a number of other conditions. That is phenomenally tough, because you can only imagine the clamour that will come when that is said.
The BBC is going to be full of stories from people who... Now, look, and again, there'll be people who, you know, who really do need the help. But I think we'd be better off spending that money on giving people counselling, giving people help, rather than signing them off for a lifetime, which is what it largely ends up being. We've got an ageing population. We've got stuff to pay for. We can't afford to have people who are not working. You need to be making your own way. You need to be paying your own bills, paying for your own kids. Don't have kids if you can't pay for them. End of story. And you need absolutely to be making a contribution if you're able to. And I think most people are able to. And it's just, again, we need to bring back a bit of shame. We need to make people you should feel ashamed if you're not being you're not contributing. If you're able to, there should be no shame. You know, if you are unable to work for whatever reason, no shame at all. Absolutely, we don't want stigma for people, but everyone else should be paying their way to contribute to help those people. But don't go on and on about how pensioners need more money, or we should give more people to disabled, more money to the disabled. Unless you are also calling for everyone who can work to work. And if people can get off the plane at Luton from another country and find them self-paid work within about 20 minutes, I'm pretty sure most of our young people can. That's for sure.